What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. We have some coaching staff updates, some good reporting from Brad Biggs. We'll react to some of that. The Bears so far have hired 3 assistant coaches as Ben Johnson is getting his staff in order, and things seem to be gaining steam here. So we're going to break it all down. My name is Harrison Graham. If you want daily and free Bears content, usually 2 or more videos per day, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. We will continue to have updates throughout this coaching staff search. We know who the head coach is. Put out a mock draft the other day, free agent targets video this morning. Plenty of stuff for you guys to go check out. So subscribe, check out the content tab. Plenty of videos over there that you probably have missed. Okay, Dennis Allen, what is the latest there? Because it had been quiet, at least on the reporting front, since the initial reporting the day Ben Johnson was hired that Dennis Allen would be the favorite. Brad Biggs today doubling down on that. He says multiple sources tell him that Dennis Allen will be hired as the Bears DC. Now, this thing is not set in stone. This thing is not finalized. They do have to comply with the Rooney Rule. There's a couple other candidates that they're looking into that we've talked about. Rams defensive pass game coordinator Aubrey Pleasant, a coach they requested. And then Vikings defensive pass game coordinator Daronte Jones. A couple of coaches there that are expected to interview. So I don't think this is like one of those breaking news, Dennis Allen's the DC, but I think it's safe to say that it would be a surprise at this point if Dennis Allen was not hired as the defensive coordinator. And I like the move quite a bit, if that's what it ends up being. We talked about kind of what he brings to the table. He had I think 5 out of 7 year stretch where his defenses were top 12 in EPA. 4 of those 5, they were top 9. 3 of those 5, they were top 5 with the New Orleans Saints. He's been a defensive coordinator in this league a long time. He's had 2 cracks at being a head coach. That's another appeal to this. If you hire him and he does well, you really have him for a while because he's not going to get a third head coaching job, at least probably won't. And if he does, it wouldn't be for several years. Defensive guys, a lot of the time, don't get a second chance. They rarely get a third. So he could be like your Steve Spagnuolo in theory. Now, Spags is much more proven, has been a part of 4 Super Bowl rings. I'm not saying Dennis Allen is as good as Steve Spagnuolo, but in terms of organizational setup, offensive head coach that calls plays, Ben Johnson, just like Andy Reid is in Kansas City. Defensive coordinator that is excellent and is very unlikely to get another head coaching job. Even Spags had 3 interviews this cycle, isn't getting a job. So Dennis Allen could be that in theory for the Bears. Obviously, you have to bring him in, see if it works, all that stuff. But he's a proven DC 4-3 scheme guy, so you're not going to have to change too much. But definitely more aggressive than a Matt Eberflus standpoint or defense, especially on the back end. Lots of different coverage looks. He'll play some man. He'll play some zone, disguise coverages, cover 2, 3, 4, 5, cover 2, 3, 4, and 6. He's going to mix it up. He's going to mix it up a lot and be exotic in the back 7. And if the Bears can get a little more punch with their front 4, I think this could be an excellent hire. So like it for Chicago. If it happens, we'll have a full video breaking down the hire of Dennis Allen, but that is where things sit right now. Okay, we are sponsored by PrizePicks here on today's episode of Chicago Bears Now. Daily fantasy made easy. 2 huge games tomorrow. If you want to get in on all of the action, you set lineups of 2 or more players. Pick more, pick less on the stats, and if you hit, you win. It's that simple. You can cross over sports. It's not just football. We got basketball, hockey, soccer season ongoing. In Europe, you also got baseball just around the corner. 2 or more players on 2 or more different teams qualifies for a lineup. Plenty of stats that you choose more or choose less on. Receiving yards, rushing yards, touchdowns, fantasy score, points in basketball, goals in soccer and hockey, all kinds of things available. They have deals a lot of the time. I think right now, Jaden Daniels, half a passing yard. You're already halfway home to a 2-player lineup win. And right now, you can win up to 1,000 times your money on certain lineups with PrizePicks. So what you waiting for? Get signed up with PrizePicks today with our link you see on screen right there, prizepicks.com/CLNS. The code CLNS is going to get you a $50 bonus when you play for just $5 initially. So if you're a new customer, check out PrizePicks today. Link is in the comments and in the description of this video. Okay, David Shaw, who interviewed for the head coaching job, and I kind of was like, this is a joke, whatever, but that was for the head coach. As a potential non-play calling offensive coordinator, I'm very interested in David Shaw. And look, maybe the more we learn, maybe the David Shaw interview is someone Ben Johnson brought up, like, hey, go interview this guy. I think he could be someone on our staff. Very experienced, worked in the NFL in the late 90s, early 2000s with the Eagles, Raiders, and Ravens. Then he followed Jim Harbaugh to the University of San Diego, was kind of his right-hand man there, where they developed Josh Johnson, who's still in the league, has been in the league for like 16 years. Then he followed Jim Harbaugh to Stanford, where he was his offensive coordinator for 4 or 5 years, and then took over the program when Harbaugh went to the 49ers. He was the Stanford head coach for 12 years and was awesome until like the last 3 years. They just kind of fell off a cliff. Not really sure what happened there. I think his offense got a little stale. You know, he's very pro style under center, that type of stuff. But he has developed and been a part of developing a lot of quarterbacks. At Stanford, Andrew Luck, Kevin Hogan, who was in the league for a while, Davis Mills, who's a good backup in Houston, Tanner McKee, who is technically the third stringer in Philadelphia, but he could easily be their backup moving forward, depending on what they do with Kenny Pickett. He played in a game late in the regular season, played pretty well. He was on the Raiders staff when Rich Gannon was starting to take off. I mentioned Josh Johnson. This guy for a while was like considered like a QB whisperer. And again, those last few years in Stanford just kind of went off the rails. They weren't getting the same level of talent. Pac-12 was getting wonky. Their defense wasn't as good, but in his heyday, he's been known for QB development, really good offensive lines, good running backs too. Think of McCaffrey, Toby Gerhart, Bryce Love. He had a lot of studs come through that program, a lot of offensive linemen as well that are playing in the NFL. And again, in a non-play calling OC role, if it's someone Ben Johnson trusts, which is priority number one with this role, because Johnson is the play caller, which means he needs someone that can be a leader and can also take on some of those film watching duties, because Ben Johnson, who will still obviously watch a ton of film, but he has to work with all three phases of the team. He's the head coach. When he's in Detroit, as soon as the Sunday game ends, he's watching film on the next team's defense, and that's his priority, putting up an offensive game plan. That's still going to be a big part of his job, but he's in charge of the whole team now. So he needs someone who can stay up late nights, get some of that stuff done, the game prep done, be the eye in the sky on game days. I would imagine whoever this OC is will be sitting in the box at Soldier Field and for road stadium venues. David Shaw, who's still only 52 years old but has like 30 years of experience, I think is a pretty intriguing name here. He's worked in the NFL, worked in college, been a head coach for over a decade. You surround Ben Johnson with a couple of head coaches in Dennis Allen and David Shaw. I'm a big fan if that's what ends up happening here. Again, I don't think, and Brad Biggs mentioned that they're going to interview Shaw. He wasn't as stern in terms of Shaw being the favorite, but what I will say, and we're going to talk about 3 other names that either have or will interview for the OC gig, Shaw is the only one who also interviewed for the head coaching job. So you start connecting these dots. I would consider him the slight favorite right now. I mentioned other names, former Titans QB coach and Raiders QB coach Bo Hardegree. He also was an assistant offensive staff member in 2015 with the Bears, actually. He interviewed for the gig already, I believe, yesterday. Broncos tight end coach we talked about, Declan Doyle. He's only 28 years old. I thought he was in his 30s. He's 28, but he's worked with Sean Payton for 5 years, 3 years with the Saints, the past 2 with the Broncos. And then they requested to interview Cardinals quarterbacks coach Israel Woolfork, which I'll admittedly don't know a ton about, but he's worked with Kyler Murray, who has a background playing under Lincoln Riley, some skill set overlap with Caleb Williams, so that would be an interesting one as well. But I do think David Shaw is the favorite at this point in time, which I'm pretty damn intrigued by. So let me know what you guys think on that. In fact, go ahead and comment below. Who do you guys want as the offensive and defensive coordinators? Give me your thoughts on both of those. Then just to circle back on the coaching staff hires that have already been made. Al Harris, who we didn't touch on yesterday in that video, he's been the Cowboys secondary coach since 2020. Last year got elevated to assistant head coach. under Mike McCarthy, which I think says a lot. Obviously, you guys know him long time as the Packers corner, who had a really good playing career. He's been hired as the DB's coach and defensive pass game coordinator. I think an interesting nugget here, a couple of them actually. Dallas was second in the NFL in interceptions since he landed on their staff from 2020 to 2024. Second in the NFL in interceptions, certainly like that. Also, a nugget that just dropped. Let me pull this up on my Twitter so I get this right. Tyreek Stevenson, who obviously had a polarizing season for a lot of different reasons. He has signed a contract with Pete Houlihan's performance unit, used by rising stars like Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Brock Bowers, and others. Sources confirm, this is via someone on Twitter, that the move was made at the recommendation of Al Harris, who aims to develop Tyreek Stevenson into a standout ball hawk. And I said it the other day on a video, I'll say it again. I still believe in Tyreek Stevenson. He's a hell of a talent. We saw at the second half of his rookie year and at times this year what he's capable of. He is a willing tackler. He hits hard. He can cover. He takes some chances, so he gets beat sometimes, but he's got good ball skills. I still think he could be a high level player in this league. And I think Al Harris, a guy who played in this league for a long time, coaching him up close and personal and motivating him, I like that move quite a bit. And if Reed can break out in year 3, I mean, your cornerbacks with Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson, and Kyler Gordon, who could get an extension this offseason, could be a damn good trio moving forward. Okay, then the other two Lions staffers, we won't spend as much time because we talked about them briefly yesterday. Antoine Randall, receivers coach in Detroit, same title here, except for they're going to slap an assistant head coach title onto him as well. So he will work with these receivers. Also has a background playing quarterback at the University of Indiana, played receiver in the NFL, so he's got familiarity with multiple positions. JT Barrett, I had mentioned his name a couple of times before the news became official. He was the Lions' assistant QB's coach, obviously a Ohio State legend, bounced around some practice squads for a few years, but has been coaching the last few. Only 30 years old, so relatively inexperienced, but reports are that he was super well liked and respected in Detroit's building. And I kind of like, especially with these other offensive staff members that could be added who have more experience, like a David Shaw, you get a guy like JT Barrett, 30 years old, someone who could really relate to Caleb Williams. I think that's a pretty good blend of coaches depending on who all they hire here. Okay, that's all we have for now. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. If any major news breaks, we will have it covered here on the channel. My name is Harrison Graham. Bear down, and we will see you guys soon.